President Trump today telling reporters he will allow Attorney General William Barr to decide whether Special Counsel Robert Mueller appears before Congress. President Trump then highlighted some of Mueller's conflicts of interest.
And Bob Mueller's no friend of mine. I had conflicts with him. We had a business dispute. We had somebody that is in love with James Comey. We like James Comey. They were very good friends, supposedly best friends. Maybe not, but supposedly best friends. You look at the picture file and you see hundreds of pictures of him and Comey. And with all of that and other things, he wanted the FBI job. I don't know if anybody knows that, but as you know, he was considered for the FBI job, wanted it. And the day after he didn't get it, he became the special counsel. That's a conflict.
Joining us tonight to examine much of all of this, Victoria Tensing, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division of the Justice Department, Joe DeGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, the founding partners of the DeGenova and Tensing law firm. Folks, it is great to see you. And let's start with the most recent reporting. John Solomon in the Hill, again, giving us a date certain that the special counsel knew that there were problems with the so-called, Trump dossier, the fraudulent dossier. And then we have sort of the suspicious sealing of that document just a couple of weeks ago by Christopher Wray at the FBI. Your reaction to both?
Hey, Lou, that was retroactive classification, which is so rare. In other words, when everything was hitting the fan, all of a sudden the FBI decided that they were going to hide this memo. Now, listen why this memo is important. It was written by a Deputy Assistant Secretary, Kathleen Kovalek. She said, wrote to the FBI what her meeting was with Christopher Steele, and believe me, it was not good. She evaluated him immediately and said that he was political and he was untrustworthy. And we can name all the different things that she spelled out for him, including that Michael Cohen was in Prague, that there were Russians paying people to hack computers in the United States, and they were being paid out of the Russian consulate in Miami, but there's no Russian consulate in Miami. So the State Department, I mean, of all people, figured out that he was a fraud and told the FBI.
Yeah, and Joe, with the knowledge that there was not a collusion case, why would a special counsel not have said something well in advance of the 2018 midterms? Isn't there a responsibility to do so, since that was his principal charge? Your thoughts?
Absolutely, Lou. Robert Mueller's performance in this has been a disgrace. He has besmirched the reputation of the department yet again. And the reason is, when you sit down and you read the 400-plus pages of that special counsel's report, it is sophomoric, it's adolescent, its legal analysis is, at best, first-year law school. And it is a smear job of the President of the United States. Everything that's in there that has nothing to do with charging anyone should never have been in the report. It's fairly obvious that the Weissman report, as we call it, was done for one reason only: to smear the President, to create a political problem for the President, and to have happen what is absolutely happening now with the nuts in the House of Representatives, to make trouble for the President. Mr. Mueller should be ashamed of himself.
And Lou, I'd like to go back to John Solomon's story, because it's really a significant story that should, I'm sure it has legs. And here's the issue. With all of this known by the FBI about how bad Christopher Steele was, and with Bruce Orr also telling the FBI in August of 2016, the FBI signed a FISA
top
authorization.
DOJ official Bruce Orr, right?
And yes, saying that Christopher Steele was not only credible, but they didn't have any bad information about him. Yep. Nothing derogatory about him. They swore that to the FISA court.
So at this point, it's clear, I think, to most people that the Democrats stole an election through collusion with the special counsel's office. There seems to be not much room for another interpretation here.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that now, Lou. As everything else is becoming clear about how there was a brazen plot to frame the President of the United States, it's also true that that plot included figuring out a way to harm the Republicans in the 2018 election cycle, and they indeed succeeded in doing so. And so that is why the Democrats are what they're doing on the Hill. They are doing that as a diversionary tactic away from the inevitable conclusions of the DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who, by the way, we have learned has concluded that the final 3 FISA extensions were illegally obtained. The only question now is whether or not the first FISA was illegally obtained, and he apparently, as a result of those disclosures from John Solomon today, which he was unaware of. The Bureau hid those memos from Horowitz. As a result of that, they are doing some additional work on the first FISA. It may be that all 4 FISAs will have been obtained illegally.
Chris Wray is hiding Jim Comey's sins. That's what's going on there.
He has, it would seem, at least to me, potentially a significant liability here, legal culpability. Would he not?
Are you talking about Comey?
I'm talking actually about Christopher Wray.
Well, Christopher Wray's liability is political because he's an empty suit. He came from King and Spalding in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where Sally Yates went after she left. That'll tell you something about King and Spalding in Atlanta. Christopher Wray is a get-along, go-along guy. He's got nothing going for him, and he hates conflict. And listen, he loves Comey and Mueller. He's one of their closest friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's so incestuous. It's extraordinary. And William Barr standing against all of the hateful nonsense in that Judiciary Committee.
Yep.
It's painful to watch, and for him to put up with it. And by the way, I know now, after watching him in just a couple of hearings, it's pretty clear why they wanted, the House Judiciary Committee wanted their attorneys on staff to question him rather than risk their own public image. They wouldn't have done well.
Well, Bill Barr's a great attorney, a great man, and the president made a fabulous choice.
Joining us tonight, Sebastian Gorka. He is a Salem radio host, author, former strategist to President Trump, great American. Good to see you. And my goodness, you didn't have to dress up just for us tonight.
You are the only person I would leave a gala on Capitol Hill in defense of the Constitution for. This is for you, Lou.
Well, thank you very much, and I am deeply in your debt. And if I may say, you look splendid.
Thank you.
I've got to get to this right away. Richard Burr makes no sense to me. Mark Warner he's been Mark Warner's, the ranking Democratic member of Senate Intelligence. He's been Warner's tool throughout. At what point does Mitch McConnell find enough of a spine to say, I said it's over? It's over, fool.
Yeah, the key question here, Lou, I had a guest on my show on America First today who raised the question.
The show name is what? I'm sorry?
America First. Who said, the key question is, it is not feasible, it is not imaginable that the Republican chairman of that committee subpoenas the president's son without Mitch McConnell knowing. If that's the case, we are in more dire straits than we imagined. He testified, Donald Jr. testified for 20 hours. That's almost twice what Hillary Clinton did after our ambassador and 2 Americans were killed in Benghazi. And now he's being subpoenaed again.
Well, there is the little matter, too, Seb, of the Mueller report. It's concluded. The conclusion is no collusion. What is this about, and why is Mitch McConnell permitting it? I am so sick and tired of watching these milquetoast rhino Republican senators, whether they're in leadership or just amongst the tepid little followers of those leaders, just simply going their own way as if the party didn't mean anything, as if they don't have to support or shouldn't be supporting the President of the United States, who is the leader of that party, for crying out loud, and who, by the way, was elected by the American people.
As a conservative born as a conservative, grew up under Margaret Thatcher, looked at Ronald Reagan as a hero. The idea that for 2 years now, Lou, you can count basically on the fingers of both hands the people who have the letter R behind their name on Capitol Hill, who stood behind President Trump, is an utter indictment of the Republican Party. The fact that these individuals haven't realized what happens when they don't support the president, they become not footnotes in history, they become irrelevance in American political life. Mitch McConnell needs to stand up for President Trump.
You know, Tom Tillis, who is one of those milquetoast rhino Republicans I'm talking about, today stood up against McConnell and Burr. I'd like to share with the audience, if we could have that full screen, of what he said. He said, "I agree with Leader McConnell. This case is closed. The Mueller report cleared Donald Trump Jr., and he's already spent 27 hours testifying before Congress. Dems have made it clear this is all about politics. It's time to move on and start focusing on issues that matter to Americans." Meanwhile, the majority leader had to agree to do that. And shame on Mitch McConnell.
We have some people in the House of Representatives, the Freedom Caucus, who support the president, who represent their constituencies. Pretty much everybody else is a member of the coward caucus. The idea that the Democrat Party, Speaker of the House and others are talking about jailing the Attorney General, jailing the Secretary of the Treasury simply because he works for Donald Trump, and then the Republicans...
They think they're being cute, Seb.
Yes, and they laugh. They laugh about it. And then what's the Republican response? Subpoena the president's son. It's an outrage.
Yeah, it's going to, I think it's a very predictable result, and I think the president is right about the outcome of the vote in 2020. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, as always, great to see you. Thanks for leaving the gala for just a while. We appreciate it. Good to see you. All best.
You too.